Welcome back, Night Dwellers. I'm your host, Mothy. Tonight's Halloween special, 7 Minutes of Terror, invites you to the perfect Halloween party. Costumes, friends, and scary fun. When the game 7 Minutes in Heaven takes a deadly turn, the lines between reality and nightmare blur, revealing a horrifying truth that has been hiding in the shadows. Get ready to feel the thrill of fear as we explore what happens when the uninvited comes knocking and what they truly desire. Becky bounced on the edge of Irene's bed, unable to contain her excitement. A faint scent of cinnamon and vanilla wafted from the pumpkin-scented candle burning on the dresser, mingling with the crisp chill seeping through the cracked window. Irene stood in front of the mirror, securing a tiny spider-shaped hair clip into her freshly braided hair. Her costume cloak draped over her shoulders like an ominous shadow. "How do I look?" Irene spun around, her witch costume swirling around her ankles in a soft rustle. Becky grinned, flashing a thumbs up. "There's no way Andre won't notice you tonight. I still can't believe he's actually coming." Both girls squealed, Irene's cheeks flushing as she let her mind wander. She imagined Andre's lips, soft, maybe tasting like cherry soda or the caramel popcorn they'd have later. Andre had been her crush since second grade, and tonight felt surreal. Everything had been meticulously planned. She and her mom had transformed the basement that morning with fake cobwebs and cardboard gravestones. Becky made the playlist, which now hummed softly through her Bluetooth speaker. The scent of freshly popped popcorn drifted up from the kitchen where Irene's mom prepared snacks. "I just hope," Irene sighed, glancing towards the closed door, "that Skylar doesn't ruin this. Mom's forcing me to keep him in the basement with us, but he's just going to cry at everything." She rolled her eyes, remembering the previous night's drama. "He's been absolutely impossible lately. Refuses to sleep in his own room, claims there's some kind of monster in the basement closet. Last night, he actually screamed until Mom let him sleep on her floor." Becky raised an eyebrow. "A monster? How original." "I know, right?" Irene scoffed, but her laugh sounded hollow. "The thing is, he's never been the scared type before, but ever since we started cleaning the basement for the party..." She trailed off, remembering how she found him yesterday, pressed against the basement wall, as far from the storage closet as possible, his tablet forgotten on the floor. When she'd asked what was wrong, he'd just shake his head, eyes wide and glassy. Becky laughed, nudging Irene. "He's 6. Just shove him in the corner with his tablet and blanket. He'll be fine." Irene nodded, but felt a knot of unease tighten in her stomach. It wasn't just the fear of Skylar embarrassing her in front of Andre. It was something else, something she couldn't quite name. The girls headed to the kitchen, where the oven's warm glow lit up 2 frozen pizzas, bubbling and crisping as her mom moved around the kitchen. A tray of popcorn balls, sticky with caramel, was waiting for them on the counter. "Here you go, girls," her mom said, handing Irene the tray. "Take these down and keep an eye on Skylar. And no R-rated movies." She gave a knowing look, though Irene only rolled her eyes. Carrying the tray, the girls walked down to the basement, which was shrouded in shadows and the faint scent of mildew. The only light came from the string of fairy lights they'd hung along the wall, casting a flickering orange glow. Skylar was curled up on the love seat in his Batman onesie, eyes glued to his tablet. He looked up briefly, the screen casting an eerie blue light on his face. "Skylar, once my friends get here, you have to move," Irene said, her voice firm as she set the tray on the rickety old table, draped with a fraying black cloth. Skylar barely looked up. "Mom said I could stay," he said, fingers tapping on his screen. Becky bent down, her voice sing-song. "I hope you're not scared of blood and monsters, Skylar. We're gonna watch some real scary stuff." Skylar's eyes darted to her, a flash of fear glinting in their depths. "I'm not afraid," he said, though his voice wavered. Irene scoffed, crossing her arms. "You were crying yesterday about the monster in the closet." She pointed towards the door in the far corner, where an old storage closet lay shrouded in darkness. Skylar's face went pale, his small fists clenching. "I wasn't lying," he said. "There really is something in there, and it doesn't like being called a monster." The air seemed to grow colder, as though the basement itself reacted to his words. Becky and Irene exchanged a glance, giggling nervously, but Irene couldn't shake the prickling sensation along her spine. "Whatever, Skylar," she said, rolling her eyes. "Just stay out of our way." She busied herself with fixing decorations, but her gaze kept drifting back. Before long, the doorbell rang, and Irene rushed upstairs to greet her guests. One by one, they arrived in their costumes, laughter echoing through the house as they made their way downstairs. Sophie, Becky's friend from dance class, came wrapped in gauze, her mummy costume adorned with fake jewels. Though she wasn't close with Irene, she never missed a party. Andre arrived with his best friend Luke. Andre was dressed as a zombie, with meticulously torn clothes and fake blood smeared on his face, looking almost too realistic. His eyes catching Irene's for a fleeting, heart-pounding second. Luke wore a chilling mask, a gray face with hollow black eyes, a wide, blood-smeared grin, and a tattered yellow hood. Irene felt something about it seemed wrong, the proportions slightly off, as if designed by somebody who'd only heard descriptions of human faces. As the boys descended the stairs, their costumes immediately drew attention. Giggles and whispers from the girls. Sophie was the first to approach, her face lightening up as she sauntered over with an exaggerated grace, adjusting her gauze-wrapped mummy costume. "Well, well," she cooed, sliding up to Andre first. "Didn't expect you to look so undead." She laughed, reaching out to tug at a strip of his costume. "Guess that makes me your mummy." Andre chuckled, raising an eyebrow. Nice one, Sophie, he replied, clearly amused by her antics. Irene shot Sophie a look, feeling a prick of irritation as Sophie moved closer to look, undeterred by his eerie silence. And you? Sophie's voice took a teasing lilt as she approached Luke, leaning in with a playful smile. That mask is creepy, but it's kinda mysterious. What are you hiding under there? She let her fingers trail along the edge of the hood, her gaze flickering between the hollow eye sockets as if daring him to respond. Luke said nothing, his head cocking slightly, and his dark, empty eye sockets seemed to linger on Sophie in a way that even made her pause. But she quickly recovered, throwing a wink at Irene as if to say, "Look, they're both into me." Irene clenched her fists, biting her lip as she watched Sophie flirt with both boys, feeling her annoyance simmer. Irene felt a flash of irritation. Sophie was known for her playful flirtation, but tonight it felt like she was doing it to get a rise out of her. And from the way Andre's gaze lingered on Sophie as she swayed back and forth, it was clearly working. Skylar, meanwhile, stood frozen in place, his small face twisted in fear as he stared at Luke's mask. His voice trembled as he tugged at Irene's sleeve. "Irene, that's him. That's the face from the closet." Irene barely registered her brother's voice, too focused on the way Sophie was leaning towards Andre, whispering something she couldn't hear. Becky, sensing the tension, quickly changed the subject. "So, who's ready for 7 minutes in heaven?" She grinned, holding up an empty soda bottle. "Come on, it's tradition." Sophie's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Count me in," she said, giving Luke a little nudge as she took her place in the circle. Irene glanced between Sophie and Andre, feeling her stomach twist as she took her spot beside him, hoping for her turn with him. When the bottle landed on Luke and Sophie, she beamed with delight, Sophie grabbing Luke's hand with a wink. "Lucky me," she teased, pulling him toward the closet, the others giggling and exchanging glances. They closed the closet door behind her, and Becky set a timer on her phone, grinning as she lowered the music. "All right, lovebirds, you got 7 minutes." The basement filled with whispered jokes and laughter, the anticipation building as the seconds ticked by. But as they neared the last minute, a loud thud came from behind the closet door, followed by a strange wet sound, a slurping noise that silenced the room. The teens exchanged nervous glances, and Becky raised an eyebrow, her voice awkward as she called out, Okay, Sophie, that's enough fun in there." But no response. The muffled slurping continued, growing louder and more grotesque. When the timer finally ran out, Becky walked up to the closet door, her smile faltering as she put her hand on the handle. "Ready or not, time's up," she called out, pulling open the door. Everyone screamed. Inside, Sophie's lifeless body lay crumpled on the floor, her face ripped away, exposing raw, bloody muscle. A pool of dark blood spread out from her head, staining the closet floor. But Luke was gone, vanished into the shadows. Irene's hand flew to her mouth as her stomach churned. Her eyes wide with horror, she stumbled backwards. What happened? The basement lights flickered, and suddenly, from the darkness of the closet, a figure began to emerge. It looked like Luke's mask, but it was no costume. The hollow black eyes seemed to pull in the darkness around it, trapping them in an empty, consuming gaze. Beneath the yellowed hood, the creature's face looked as if it had been carved from bone and stone, cracked and streaked with blood, its mouth frozen in a wide, jagged cut, seemed to grin wider, revealing teeth sharp and gleaming with fresh blood. Becky backed away, her hand over her mouth, unable to take her eyes off the creature. That can't be Luke. The creature tilted its head, and its hollow eyes scanned each of them, pausing on Irene as if savoring her fear. Its breath came out in a slow, raspy hiss, filling the silence with a sound that sent ice down their spines. Finally, it spoke, the voice hollow and mocking.
Who wants a kiss?
The teens stumbled back, frozen with terror as the creature took a step forward, leaving bloody footprints across the floor. Its eyes seemed to laugh, to mock them, as if the horror they felt only fueled it further. In that moment, Irene's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with trembling hands, her vision blurring as she read the message from Luke. Sorry, I couldn't make it tonight. I'm not feeling well. Hope you're having fun. The phone slipped from her grasp, hitting the floor with a soft clatter. A cold realization washed over her. This thing wasn't Luke. Whatever it was, it had been in the closet, waiting for them. The creature took another step, the shadows around it stretching as if reaching for them. Its voice echoed through the basement, low and mocking.
Who's next?
That concludes today's episode. Join us again next week for another spine-tingling tale on Simple Dark Stories. If you enjoyed this and would like to help out, please give us 5 stars and tell us what haunts your dreams. Until next time.